and welcome to my review of the Rise of Skywalker. So this is the first time that I am reviewing a Star Wars film on camera, on YouTube, on the internet. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about my history with Star Wars before I go straight into what I thought of this movie. So I was sort of a second generation Star Wars fan. I remember the first time I saw Star Wars. Cable had just become a big thing, so it was the 90s. And I think it was TNT. They were showing it over and over and over and over again. I had a cousin who was like, oh my God, like I just saw this movie, you need to see it. It's called Star Wars, you're gonna love it. And I was like, Star Wars? And I was a huge Star Trek fan, so I already liked, science fiction, but I had never, seen Star Wars. And I saw Return of the Jedi. She came over, we had a sleepover. I saw Return of the Empire Strikes Back. No, it was Empire Strikes Back. And I fell in love with Star Wars. I fell in love with Han Solo. I fell in love with the planets, and then Calrissian. Princess Leia was like my girl. She was like goals, and it was something about it. Like it changed me, and it opened my mind up to the worlds and imaginations. And I was already sort of a creative and a writer, and it just really tapped into something that was inside of me. And they were showing Star Wars and they were showing Empire Strikes Back. They were not showing Return of the Jedi. And so I was just like, oh my God, like I have got to see Return of the Jedi. Like I have to see how it ends. Like I have to know. And I was flashing back to this time when Return of the Jedi actually came out, but I wanted to see the Muppets. The Muppets Take Manhattan. And me and my brother were like fighting. My brother was like so pissed that like I was like arguing that I wanted to see the Muppets. And so my parents, they were like, my mom was like, I'm gonna take you to see the Muppets, and my dad was like, I'm gonna take my brother to see Return of the Jedi. And I remember the Muppets ended up early, which I love the Muppets. The Muppet Takes Manhattan, still one of my favorite movies. And we went and we saw the Muppets, and I came out early, and I went, because back then you could just walk into the movie theater. So I walked into the movie theater where the Return of the Jedi was playing, and it was the speeder scene. I remember to this day, it was the speeder scene when they were in the forest. And I remember thinking like, wow, right? But nothing really kind of beyond that, right? And so, but that was the power of that brief little millisecond. And so, fast forward years later, I really want to see Return of the Jedi. There was this store called Fedco that was out here. VHSs are just, they were a thing. And so they had all 3 Star Wars, like, videos, the VHSs that they were doing together. I'm like, oh, and I begged my mom to get it, and she got it. And I watched Return of the Jedi. And I had seen, like, all 3 of them. And all I did was watch them, and they were just, like, they became something that was very, 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 very special to me. And then the prequels came out. Like, I'm actually one of those people that actually love the prequels, but we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit later as we get into that. But I just kind of consumed everything Star Wars, like the comic books. Like, I got the old comic books that were out by Marvel. I found out there was an expanded universe, so I read like all of the books like around the expanded universe. To see, I was so happy, Leia and Han, they got married, and they had kids, and there were all these adventures, and there were just books upon books upon books where I could just continue to love Star Wars. Fan fiction, was on the internet. I had like connected with like, message boards, I was just all in. But I have to tell you, by the time that Disney bought Star Wars, I was kind of burnt out on the expanded universe. It had gotten really dark. There was a litter of dead bodies of people that I cared about. Chewie, Mara Jade, Worse, Anakin, and Jake and Solo. And I was like, oh, this is so horrible. Because, Han and Leia are like one of my favorite, like, couples of all time, and to think of them losing their kids like that, it was just like, I was like, okay, I was like, you know what, I'm ready for the expanded universe. I'm ready for something new, maybe a happier ending for my trio. And then The Force Awakens comes out. I did not like that movie. I did not like that movie. To say that I hated it, I, yeah, I did not like what that movie did to the characters that I loved. Okay, I love Han Solo. I love Han Solo. That's like one of my favorite characters of all time. But at the end of that movie, by the time that he was dead, I, I didn't feel anything. I actually felt like it was a mercy killing, because here you have this guy, and here he was, 102 years old, still smuggling, a loser. They had painted him like a deadbeat dad. It was very upsetting to me. Leia was still Leia. She was still fighting a good fight. Luke had disappeared. You know, and then there was Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, you know, the offspring of of Han and Leia, who I should have loved, but who I could not stand. You know, he just seemed to me like a Dollar Tree Darth Vader, to be honest. He did not feel to me like he was their child. So I couldn't connect with him. So then I thought, well, you know, going in, you know, they were teasing that Rey was a Skywalker. Like, even if you saw, like, the when they were doing sort of the trailers for it, the teasers, where Luke goes, the force is strong in my family. I have it. My sister has it. You have that power too. I mean, they were teasing that she was a Skywalker. My hope was that she was Han and Leia's daughter, just because that's what I wanted. But, you know, if she was Luke's daughter, that would have been cool too. And then, you know, the movie came out. She was clearly not Han and Leia's daughter. And I started to get a bad feeling about this, because I'm like, this is supposed to be the next chapter in the Skywalker saga. Don't tell me that I am watching a Skywalker movie without Skywalkers, okay? Now, you know, there's Skywalkers in it, but, you know, the titular character is Rey. She is the star. She is the focal point, and I don't have any interest in watching the Skywalker saga about Rey random. Like, so I'm like, okay, you know what? Finn is interesting enough. I liked Finn. Poe, I loved Poe. I was one of people that loved Poe. Rey was interesting enough. I'm like, you know what? You know, this was a clear retelling of A New Hope in a way that I did not like. They did things to my characters that I loved for years, that I did not like. But you know what? Let me give it a try with The Last Jedi. Now, actually, when The Last Jedi came out, I was actually one of the people that didn't hate The Last Jedi. I didn't love it. I only seen it once, which for me, being a Star Trek Wars fan, is saying a lot. But I understood why he did what he did. Because I felt the foundation of the trilogy was messed up. Like, if you're going to choose to make this saga around someone who is not a Skywalker, and it's the Skywalker saga, you have to find out a way to connect the Skywalker, which is Kylo Ren, to the random chick, right? And so that force bond and all that stuff, I didn't particularly like that. It creeped me out, to be honest. I didn't understand, like, why she would be attracted to him. This guy's a mass murderer. He killed his own father right in front of you. I didn't know why she was so obsessed with bringing him back to the light side. But, you know, I just figured it was what it was. You know, he did the best that he could. I wasn't happy with what they did with Luke, you know, that he was, you know, he had just sort of given up. And then there was this whole plot line about him killing his nephew. Now, 1,000 words have been said about this, but if you're still trying to redeem Darth Vader, if you still think that there's good in Darth Vader, you're not going to try to kill your nephew because you just have a feeling that he might become evil. Like, that was against his character. You know, I could have seen if he had actually been doing some evil stuff, if he had actually, you know, burnt down the Jedi Temple and was killing younglings and killing people, and you saw him and you're fighting him and you're trying to kill him to stop him, but trying to kill him in his sleep, even if it's just a thought you have for a millisecond, that's not Luke Skywalker, okay? And then, you know, and then the whole way that he died was dumb. There's so many plot holes in The Last Jedi. I'm not even going to go into that, because this is not about The Last Jedi. I will do a Last Jedi review on another thing. This is about the Rise of Skywalker. But I rather than hating The Last Jedi, I just lost interest in Star Wars. I just lost interest in Star Wars. The minute, Kylo Ren tells Rey, your parents are nobody, they're crackheads that sold you for crack, or whatever, I lost all interest because I'm like, what am I watching? What am I watching? Luke is dead. Carrie Fisher had passed on, which means that Leia's pretty much dead or going to be dead. Kylo Ren, the minute he killed Han, I knew he was dead. He was a dead man walking. Because of the way that it worked, and even if he was redeemed, he would have to pay for his sins. So now you're telling me that I am watching a Skywalker saga about Rey Random, the daughter of crackheads. That did nothing for me. And then add to the fact that neither Finn nor Poe was really given stuff to do to make them interesting, and I just didn't care. Okay. So that brings us to the Rise of Skywalker. So I really wasn't sure if I wanted to see this movie. Like, a part of me as a Star Wars fan wanted to see it. The Mandalorian, as you guys can see with Baby Yoda, had done a lot to re-energize my interest in Star Wars. So I was, and then kind of interested to see. And then there's just this part of you, when you've been watching something, you want to know how it ends. Like, even though and fans, like true fans of something, will know, right, that we will watch something to the bitter end, even if we're moaning and bitching and complaining about it before, during, and after. Like, we're there to the end. So, I went to go see it, and I have to tell you, I liked it. No, I loved it. Okay. Now, I understand why people are saying that this movie's trash. Okay. Like, it makes no sense. Everything is stuffed in there. Like, they don't explain anything. How can you do this? How can you do that? How did how you connect that? You're just supposed to go with it, right? So I can understand the complaints about that. But as a Star Wars fan, a longtime Star Wars fan, I felt for the first time in the whole sequel trilogy that I was watching a Skywalker saga film. Okay. And, hats off to Adam Driver. Okay. Because I have been talking about Kylo Ren forever to anybody who will listen to me, that he's a Dollar Tree Darth Vader. I didn't like him. I could care less about him. He changed my mind about that, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So, spoilers. Here be spoilers. I'm not going to really, sort of get into the plot, because there really is no plot. The dead speaks. I was actually with a friend when the crawl came on, which is probably the worst crawl since Attack of the Clones. And she just started laughing, because we knew from that very first sentence what we were in for. But it's just Palpatine, apparently is like Voldemort now, and he's back. We don't know how he's back, but he's sending out signals to his followers that he's back. And so everybody's trying to get to him, to stop him. Kylo Ren is trying to get to him, because he's like, look, I'm, supreme leader of the galaxy now. I don't need you. Back off. Rey is, of course, trying to get to him to stop him. He's going to help the First Order become more powerful, and the Resistance has to stop that, because they're trying to stop the First Order and free the galaxy again. And so that's basically the plot. They need to find the Emperor in order to stop him, and it's magic daggers and wayfinders and all this stuff. It really makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. But you just, like I said, you just got to go with it. That's the basic plot. So what I did like, the trio, I thought there was a lot of chemistry between the three. I thought, that it's too bad we didn't get to see that play out in episode 8, because they had to sort of cram them together in episode 9, with this idea that they had been together forever long since the last movie ended. They tried to repeat some of the dynamics, because this is JJ, so you have Poe and Rey fighting like Han and Leia without the sexual tension, and then you have, of course, the close bond between Finn and Rey, like Luke and Leia had. Sort of to me with a little bit of a sexual undertone, because I saw that in The Force Awakens, but you know, that is what it is. So I like seeing them together. It was fun watching them together. It was fun watching their adventures together. I enjoyed it. It was stupid, it was nonsensical, but again, I go to movies for fun, and watching the three of them together was fun. You know, Finn and Poe's dynamic is always fun. It was just fun, okay? So that brings me to the character sort of individually. Finn, my boy, and I loved, you know, everybody was complaining about Finn's arc in this, right? Like, he didn't do anything but go, Ray, Ray, Ray. And some of that is true, some of that is valid. Did y'all miss the part that he was force sensitive? And I knew that. Like, I knew it from The Force Awakens that he was force sensitive, because he never would have been able to wield that lightsaber the way that he did. I mean, yeah, anybody could turn a lightsaber on, but when he was fighting with those people with the lightsaber, when he was fighting with Kylo with the lightsaber, I mean, yeah, Kylo almost killed him, but he wouldn't have even been able to give him the little run for his money if he wasn't force sensitive. And it just seemed like that was dropped in The Last Jedi, so I was so happy to pick that up. You know, I'm really excited. I hope that they, I mean, I don't know if these characters are popular enough for them to do books or comic books or anything like that, but if they do, I mean, I think it'd be cool. You know, obviously Rey is gonna have to train him, and he's gonna become a Jedi, and I think that's fantastic. Also, they dropped that horrible Rose Finn romance. I mean, they had zero chemistry, you know, and I'm gonna get to Rose actually after I talk about Finn, but you know, one of my favorite parts of the movie was when Finn was like, yo, Rose, you know, Rey and Poe and me, we're gonna do some adventure stuff. We're gonna stop the First Order. You wanna roll? And she's like, no, you know, I have to stay here. You know, Leia wants me to like look at some schematics. She's like, cool. Totally friendship zoned her, and that just made me happy, because I didn't like Rose. I mean, I didn't have a problem with Rose. I just didn't like Rose and Finn, like as a couple. I just felt like they were trying to throw him to Rose to keep him away from Rey, and I didn't like that at all. You know, I had real issues with that. But overall, I was happy that, you know, Finn, he was brave, he was force sensitive. He had a little minor flirtation with Jaina, which I liked. I think her name was Jaina, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later too. So I was pleased. I was pleased, okay? That brings us to Poe. I love Poe. I just do. I'm a sucker for a scoundrel. I loved him. I thought he was fantastic in this. He had chemistry with everybody. I liked, I didn't really like his Spice Runner past, because I felt like it was too close to Han Solo, and we didn't really need that. But, you know, hey, that is what it is. You know, I was intrigued by what his past was with Zoe Bliss. I was very happy with him in the movie. I just thought he was great. Lando, I wanted to see Lando again, but I was so scared after what they did to Luke and Han, that they were just bringing him back to die in the most stupidest way possible, or they were going to assassinate his character. So I was so happy that he came back and that he was Lando. He was the Lando that I loved. He, you know, he was helpful. It was great seeing him, you know. It was just, why they couldn't bring him back before and have one last hurrah with Lando, Luke, Han, and Leia before passing the baton, because this was always going to be a pass the baton movie. But the way they passed the baton was wrong. They were so busy trying to get to the end, to the baton passing, that they didn't take time to do it correctly, to do it respectfully, to do it in a way that didn't piss off long-term fans or ruin legacy characters. It just a missed opportunity all the way around with that. But love seeing Lando again. Leia. One of the things I can say was that Leia was always Leia. Okay, I didn't like, because I identify with Leia, so I didn't like the fact that she had gone through all this horrible tragedy. You know, she had lost her planet, she had lost her parents, you know, she had to lead the rebellion at a young age. She found out that Darth Vader was her father. She got married to Han. Then she lost her son to the dark side. She lost her brother, she lost her husband. But one of the things about Leia is that she never gave up hope, and she never stopped fighting the good fight. And so that's the one thing that I can say about her. Was I pleased about this whole retcon about her all of a sudden being a Jedi? I mean, I could see Luke training her. Did she know enough to be able to train Rey? No, I don't think so. Like, it's kind of crazy. But again, we're just going to go with that because there was so much complaints about Rey hasn't been trained, Rey hasn't been trained, Rey hasn't been trained. And so I think, again, this movie, a lot of this movie was to appease fans, was to answer fans' questions. You complaining about Rey not getting trained? Here, this girl's running into the forest getting trained, right? And so that's kind of the thing sort of with that. So I'll let that go. Did I like her death? No. I didn't feel like she had to necessarily die. I mean, I know Carrie Fisher died, but the character of Leia, I didn't think had to die. I didn't think that she had to die. But I mean, she got her son back in the end, which is something that we'll talk about. But the thing that makes me sad, though, she disappeared into the Force, and Han is not Force sensitive, so the idea that they cannot or were not reunited in the afterlife makes me sad, but I'm hoping that somehow they were. I'm just gonna go with that they were reunited in the afterlife, because that would make me very, very happy, because again, one of my favorite couples of all time, and I can't stand the thought of them being separated for all eternity. So then that brings us to 3PO and R2. You know, 3PO was being 3PO, blah, 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 blah. I felt that 3PO and R2 should have had a bigger role instead of these new robots that they were trying to introduce, simply because they have been such a big part of the first and second trilogies. They were the only constants. And so I felt that they needed to have a bigger role in this movie, you know, as constants as well as the droids. So, you know, I was happy to see more of 3PO. We didn't see a lot of R2 because they're not going to, you know, let him usurp BB-8, you know, but I was happy to see him. And was his plot with the Sith, reading the Sith dagger and not being able to and having his memory wiped, was that a good plot? No, but there were no good plots in this movie. So I'm not going to complain about that. There was this one part where he's looking at them and he's like, Poe was like, you know, he's about to have his memory wiped, and Poe was like, you know, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm about to take one last look at my friends. That part was ridiculous because Chewie, I assumed that Chewie was going to be there because it made it seem like Chewie and R2 were going to be there from the trailer. They were not there. She's looking at Finn, Poe, and Rey, and BB-8. Those are not his friends. So at least they should have had him having a flashback, you know, to everything that he had been through before his memory was erased, and then he could say that. But it made no sense that he was saying, these are not your friends. I can't even stand you. Poe cannot stand 3PO. Like, you thought Han Solo couldn't stand 3PO? Poe cannot stand 3PO. So, it just didn't work. Okay, it didn't work. So that brings us to Reylo. So I'm going to talk about them separately. Let's talk about Ben. Kudos to Adam Driver, because he acted his ass off in this. Okay, he left everything on the floor, and this was the first time that I ever felt like he was the son of Han and Leia, and that this was his story, and that I was watching a story about Skywalkers. Seeing, it's the first time I also understood excuse me, where he was coming from. Because I never really understood his motives. He just seemed like some whiny kid who threw some type of temper tantrum, and we still don't really know why he turned to the dark side. Yeah, Luke tried to kill him, but I'm not really going to turn you to the dark side if you weren't already kind of there. The Emperor has apparently been manipulating him since he was young, which I can kind of buy. I could buy that more than that Snoop character doing it, which I thought was dumb. So I can kind of buy that. But he felt like after he had killed Han, but he could never come home. And I got that. And even though he was conflicted by the light, and maybe he didn't necessarily want to go down this path, he realized it was a mistake. He felt like he had made his choices and he had to live with it, and he had to do the best that he could do with it. I understood that. That was the first time I understood him, and I felt for him. When Leia died, you know, people are like, I saw this movie, I didn't feel anything. When Leia died, I cried. Because I didn't cry when Han died. Again, I thought that was a mercy killing after what they did to his character. I didn't cry when Luke died because I just thought it was so ridiculous. But when Leia died, I cried because I had always felt like an affinity towards her, and I felt my pain. I felt his pain. I felt Chewie's pain. You know, I just, and then he saw his dad afterwards. Han came to him, basically telling him it's not too late. And then, of course, the part where he wants to tell his dad, "I love you," and Han goes, "I know." And so it was the love of his parents that redeemed him. Raylos can disagree, but it was the love of his parents that brought him back to the light. And I liked that, and I felt like they were his parents, and I could forgive him for killing Han. All these years I couldn't forgive him, but if Han can forgive him, I can forgive him. And he was created out of the love that he had with Leia, and that's why he could forgive him anything. And so, is this the future that I wanted for them and their family? No. But did I like the future that the expanded universe gave with the death of Anakin and Jason? No. Although they did get to be more of a family in that book, and they did end up raising their granddaughter, and they end up, with Jaina, and still had their daughter left. But either way, Star Wars is a tragedy with some uplifting moments, and so they weren't going to live happily ever after. I mean, as happily ever after as they could, because in the expanded universe, at least they got to be together and live out their lives together, even if they lost their children, which, it's cool with me, but, there was always going to be a level of tragedy to them and to their family, and so I just, I accepted it. This movie was about acceptance. This movie, I could not accept this trilogy. I could not accept what this trilogy had done. This movie made me accept these characters, accept this trilogy, okay? Which brings me to Rey. I had zero interest in Rey before she became a Palpatine. Now, people can just get mad, they can get crazy, and be like, they undermine. I saw so many articles from people just was sparing me with this. They undermined everything they did. What I liked about the movie was that anybody can be a Jedi. Guess what? We already know that anybody who has the Force and the mitochondrias can be a Jedi, okay? For 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and the Old Republic, and only one of them was named Skywalker, okay? And then you have Luke, all right? So we already know that you don't need to be a Skywalker to be a Jedi. We don't need Rey to be the random daughter of crackheads to tell us that. We already know this, okay? And people that keep saying that they must not know Star Wars or watch Star Wars or parroting things that they heard. Star Wars, the chapter sagas, okay? If you want to go off into your anthologies about random people, that's cool. But the chapter sagas have always been about family, about legacy, about how the past shapes the present and the future, okay? You can't have some random chick in the center of that. You have to have a character with a legacy, okay? So while I care nothing about Rey Random, Rey Palpatine, I care about you, okay? And that fixed all my problems that I had with Rey. Forget about, the fact that she's still over superpowered and all that kind of stuff. And we're gonna talk about how to use the Force in a minute. But I actually cared about her because she mattered to me. She mattered to the story. She was a Palpatine, and it just made sense to me, and it tied everything up. So I was cool with that. And my feelings about Rey changed, and I actually cared about her and cared about what happened to her because she was a part of the legacy of this story that I cared about. That's what people don't understand. Like, we have cared about this story, people, for 30, 20, 30, 40 years, okay? And it was important to honor that legacy, okay, within the chapter sagas, okay, within the Skywalker saga. Do whatever you want to outside of the Skywalker saga, but don't do it in the Skywalker saga. Like, that was the issue, okay? Now, do I think that Palpatine needed to have a son? No. I think that he should have manipulated Rey the way that he manipulated Anakin with the mitochondriacs and did a virgin birth and all that kind of stuff. But, like I said, it is what it is. I'm just going to go with it. Rey seemed to be a much more interesting character in this one. I know people agree, but she was allowed to fail. She was allowed to show different emotions. She was allowed to interact with other people. She just wasn't isolated with Luke and Kylo Ren. I got to see her potential, and that's the thing. That's the thing about this movie. That's the thing about this movie. You got to see the potential of the trio, and even Ben and Ben. I'm gonna call him Ben, Solo. You got to see the potential. And that's what's kind of sad, because whether you like The Last Jedi or not, it was a wasted movie because it did not move these characters in a way that it needed to, and it didn't show their potential. And that's what it is. I think this movie should have actually been 2 movies, but because they had to do a trilogy, they didn't want to do that. But this movie should have been 2 movies. Would it have erased The Last Jedi? Yeah, it erased The Last Jedi anyway, okay? This movie strongly suggested, although we didn't really get into it because it was doing too much, that Luke actually was not hiding, okay? What happened was he found out that Palpatine was alive, and he was going, trying to find him, okay? Trying to find a way, find him, the Sith dagger and all this other MacGuffin stuff in order to find Palpatine. And then when he failed to find Palpatine, he ended up, on the island, I guess depressed or whatever. Hopefully he wasn't there for long, And even while he was on the island, he hadn't completely given up. He was still making notes and doing things, I guess just in case, because maybe he had a feeling, that Rey or somebody was going to come along to finish his journey. So it made it a little better. It made it a little more palpable. I liked the part when Rey, there's a part where Rey feels like she is dangerous and she goes to the planet that Luke was on in The Last Jedi and throws away her lightsaber like Luke did, in The Last Jedi. He threw it over his shoulder. He catches it. I like that part. I know a lot of people, it's cheesy or whatever it is, but I liked that part. I like that part. To say, this is not what you do, this is not who you are, you don't give up, all right? And then when he says, I was wrong to come here and to give up, because he was wrong, all right? And to say that, I liked that. I really did. But again, I was supposed to like it. It was supposed to appease me, and it did, because I want to love Star Wars. I do. There's so many people out there that want to love Star Wars, and we are just so easy. And people are like, oh, you guys are so easy. You're so easily appeased. Yes, we are. We are very easily appeased. And that's why there was no reason for these trilogies to be so divisive, okay? You could have just given us more of what we wanted and more respect. But I'm going to get to that at the end, okay? Now, the Reylo romance, didn't buy it. I know there's tons of Reylos out there. I never saw romantic chemistry between the 2 of them. I saw sort of a brother-sister bond, 2 people that felt like they were the only people that understood each other. As a matter of fact, I kept waiting for her to be revealed to be his sister or his cousin, which may have been skewed as to why I never saw the romance or never invested in it, but I got why Disney did it, okay? When we were all moaning and complaining about it, the only people that was riding hard for them were the Reylos. So I get that they felt like they had to give them something. There you got it. But of course they're pissed because they didn't live happily ever after. Did you really think they were gonna live happily ever after? I mean, I saw somebody say Twilight, they got to live happily ever after. What else? Something else. Hunger Games. Star Wars is not some young adult romance novel. Okay, it is not Twilight and it is not The Hunger Games, although The Hunger Games is really good. Twilight, you can tell by the look on my face. Yeah. This is not a young adult romance novel that you're looking at. Like, they were never going to live happily ever after. Ben was going to die. When this Star Wars, it's the same thing with Vader, okay? He got redeemed, but he had done too much stuff to live. There's consequences for your behavior. He had done too much stuff, wreaked too much havoc, killed too many people, murdered his own father. So even if he had his redemption, he was going to die. That's the price that he had to pay. So apologies to Reylos, but y'all should have saw that coming. All right. I didn't like the kiss. Again, I thought it was just, but it is what it is. He disappeared into the forest, and that was the last word on the story of Skywalkers. There are no more Skywalkers. And I'm going to talk about how I feel about that a little bit later. So the Emperor comes back, like I said, he's just back. There's no explanation of why he's back. I actually watched the end of Return of the Jedi the other day. Darth Vader clearly threw him into that shaft. He clearly blew up in the shaft. And then the ship that he was in, the Death Star, blew up. How he came back from that, there's no way to explain that, so they didn't even bother. So maybe I should just say kudos for not even trying to explain something that doesn't make sense. He was hooked up, to something, and so they at least tried to, acknowledge that he should be messed up. But there's parts in this where Kylo Ren gets blown up in a TIE fighter and he just walks out without even a scratch. So like I said, this is the movie where you just have to just go with it. Okay, so now I want to talk about Rose Tico. There's been not a lot, okay, there's been these articles written about Rose Tico to conserve better. So many people love Rose Tico. Did we though? Now, I don't have a problem with Rose Tico, but the issue was I felt like she was an unnecessary character, and I felt like she was written out because she was an unnecessary character. Now, I get that she had been bullied, and there are a lot of people. Look, I'm not gonna say that there aren't people who don't like this new trilogy. They're not sexist, racist, homophobes, blah, blah, blah. I've seen some of their videos. I have looked in their comment sections. Yeah, okay, some of the people have an issue with that, with women, with people of color, and they're not gonna say it, okay, but it's there, or they come out and say it. It's just there, but they feel justified in it. I'm really not gonna get into it, but yeah, it's there. I'm not gonna say that it's not. There are people who have a problem with that because of that. There's people like me who had a problem with it for reasons that I told you, because I just didn't feel like it was respectful to the original trilogy, and I didn't like the way that it was going. Some of that is personal, but there are different reasons. But I'm going to give you that. Kelly Tran was harassed by some trolls. I would give you that. And I get that people wanted, you felt like you wanted to protect her and that the trolls won. Maybe they did, but she wasn't taken out to appease the trolls, okay? She was, or the racist. She was just taken out because her character should never have been introduced in the first place. Rian Johnson decided that he was going to just not pick up from any of the threads that J.J. Abrams did, and he was going to create his own character, and his own, world and his own ideas, and it is what it was, okay? When J.J. Abrams came up and had to clean up that mess, Rose unfortunately just had to, be swept under the rug. She had no chemistry with Finn. The romance made no sense. They were like, but she taught him, how hard the universe was and what they were fighting for. He was kidnapped as a child. He was forced to be a stormtrooper. He saw the First Order firsthand. He doesn't need Rose to tell him or to teach him about why it's important to fight the First Order. He already knows these things, okay? So, and then the whole thing about, we have to fight for what we love. Really? You love Finn? You just met him like 2 minutes ago. We'll get into that when I do The Last Jedi, because I will be doing The Last Jedi review. But it's just like, I really feel like, people just kind of need to chill when it comes to Rose. It was nothing personal. It was just, you already have 4 leads, okay? You have 4 leads. You have Rey, you have Finn, you have Poe, you have Ben, okay? You can't have a 5th lead. There was just no room for her. And people were like, well, The Hobbit had more lines than she did. I mean, it is what it is. There's nothing that they could have really done. I think Jaina should have been introduced in the second movie. Zori Bliss should have been introduced in the second movie. Episode 8 should have been a completely and totally different movie. But Rose, you have to let it go. It's not personal, okay? She just wasn't important and significant to the story. It just was what it was, okay? That's why she was out. So, I want to talk about how the Force was used in this movie. Because that is a valid complaint. The Force is just ridiculous in this movie, okay? Like, they can heal now, they can fly, although in the last movie, we could do that. They can pass objects to each other when they're not even near each other. They can fight when they're not even near each other. Okay? And they try to explain this by saying everybody can't do this. The only reason why this can happen is because Rey and Ben are a Force dyad, but hasn't been seen or is so rare, and that's the only reason why I can. That, that's a cheat. That's a cheat. Although the Force healing power seems to be something that now they've put into canon, because if you saw The Mandalorian, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So, but it was just like the things that they did with the Force was ridiculous. Like they're making the Jedi too overpowered, too godlike. I'm not particularly a fan of that. I'm not going to really get into the nuts and bolts of that because I'm not really, into that like that. But I agree with the people that have a problem with that. It's just, it's just too much. So, but overall, I have to tell you, this movie, if it did nothing, my anger left. I had gotten to the point where I was so upset about what they had done that I feel like I couldn't even enjoy Star Wars. I have not seen A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi since of The Force Awakens. And that was very sad to me because I'm like, knowing how it ends, knowing what happened to them, I just couldn't. And maybe that's over dramatic. I don't know, but that's just how I felt. I felt this movie was an apology, and I accept their apology. It gave me what I needed for closure, and I'm able to love Star Wars again. Okay, now that's just me. It was just me. This movie, I felt that it was respectful to Han. I felt they were respectful to Leia, to Lando, to Luke. Rey being a Palpatine, so the legacy of Star Wars. Ben, actually feeling like a solo Skywalker. I was happy. So while the movie, it's not a great movie, it's like a Academy Awards, it doesn't make any more sense plot-wise than The Last Jedi. The feelings that it invoked, that it was saying, we're going to try to be the Star Wars that you love, and again, people are like, oh, well, it's going backwards. But again, the chapter sagas are about legacy, about the past as much as the present. Okay. So again, you want to see something different, that's what these anthology movies are going to be about, but not in the chapter movies. Star Wars needs to move forward, yes, but not in the Skywalker saga. Okay. So, how do I feel about the Skywalkers being dead? I knew they were all going to die. That's kind of the only way that you can wrap it up. But do I feel that all the Skywalkers are dead? No. There's rumors that George Lucas had a cut out there with a secret Skywalker that I don't know if it's a rumor or not, but I do believe that there is a secret Skywalker out there. I think that Luke Skywalker has a child out there. I think we will be seeing a series. This is my prediction in Disney Plus, because I don't think we're going to be getting any more Skywalker movies, but I think we're going to be seeing a series of that child grown. I also think we're going to be getting probably more adventures of Luke, Leia, and Han on Disney Plus, whether it be live action, whether it be cartoon versions. I don't think that we have seen the last of these characters. I mean, they're just too beloved. I just don't. I think the film franchise is going to go back in the past. I think they have to go back in the past. Oh, and that brings me to, okay, I'm sorry. I forgot this part. Did I like the ending? Did I like the ending where Rey is on Tatooine and some random lady just shows up and she's like, nobody has been here for so long. Who are you? She's like, I'm Rey. Rey. And she turns around and she looks at Luke and Leia, who we are supposed to feel she feels like is her family. And again, that's told to us and not shown, okay? because everything had to be crammed into this movie. Leia training her had to be crammed into this movie. Her finally bonding with Luke because she didn't bond with him in the last movie. Okay, they were doing this. All of this stuff, you know, her feelings and her connections towards Ben, who again, I know she kissed him, but hey, Luke kissed Leia, okay? Who she felt like was a brother, that these were her family, that Han was like the father that she never had. These people were her family. And so she looks at the lady and she says, Ray Skywalker. I understood why she did it. I just gave you all the reasons. Did I necessarily feel like she had to do that? No. Because you have made the decision. You made the decision not to make her a Skywalker. That was the decision that you made, okay? You made the decision to kill off all the Skywalkers. Again, that was the decision that you made. So she did not have to take the name Skywalker. She didn't. She didn't have to take that name at the end. But she did. So again, so the Skywalkers are gonna live on. You know what I mean? Like, maybe Finn doesn't have a last name either. All right, and so hey, he can be Finn Skywalker. Why not? Everybody can be a Skywalker. You could be a Skywalker. You could be a Skywalker. I could be a Skywalker. You know, so it's just one of those things. So it's like one of those things to be saying, well, the bloodline of the Skywalkers are, and the bloodline is finished. I don't want to hear any of these people talking about, oh, maybe he magically impregnated her with that kiss. That would be so freaking gross. Like, let's just leave that alone, okay? It was what it was. The Skywalkers helped to mold her into the people that she was. Luke, Leia, and Ben, and Han. Skywalker by marriage. They helped mold her into the people that she are. She is the person she is. She's gonna take what she is and restart the Jedi Order. And in that way, the Skywalkers have risen. Okay, that's what's happening here. You know, so you know, all in all, again, you know, it was a popcorn flick. It was enjoyable. Like I said, I liked it, you know, and enjoyed it a lot more than I liked the last two movies. And it reignited, as crazy as it is, this trash. It reignited my love for Star Wars because it reminded me of all the things that I loved about Star Wars. So I know there are people out there that are going to feel differently. I know there are people out there that, you know, and I've seen them with your legitimate complaints about it. But you know, I wasn't one of them. You know, it was just, all I wanted was to be able to go into the movie and like it. That's all I wanted to do. That's where my expectations were. And to be able to go into the movie and like it just meant everything to me, you know, even though the nonsensical plot and the characters and everything, but I was able to enjoy it, and I was able to feel something for these characters for the first time ever. And just, you know, I am sad for what might have been, what could have been. You know, the trilogy, the sequel trilogy, all in all was a failure. It just was, you know, there was no planning, you could tell. There was no synergy between the three movies. It was just a bunch of wasted potential. But here we are, you know, we're at the end, and I'm glad that they ended it this way. You know, I would have loved the Secret Skywalker ending, but I knew they weren't going to do that because it would have left, you know, room for episode 10, 11, and 12, which they were trying not to do. But like I said, I still think the Secret Skywalker is out there, but I get like why they didn't do that. So if I had to rate the Rise of the Skywalker like as a movie, I would give it a 6 out of 10. Now, if I had to rate the Rise of the Skywalkers on my enjoyment level, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, just because I liked it. I make no apologies for liking it. I liked it, you know. And so, you know, it's just my hope now that we can just move forward. We can move forward with The Mandalorian, with the Obi-Wan series that I'm very much looking forward to, because I love Ewan McGregor. He was the best thing in that prequels, and he made me a huge Obi-Wan Kenobi fan. And then, of course, you know, the new movies that are, you know, more than likely going to go back into the past and introduce us to a whole bunch of new, you know, kick-ass Jedi. I'm kind of waiting for that. So, thank you for my review of The Rise of Skywalker. As I said, I'm gonna probably be going back and reviewing like all of the Star Wars movies. From my perspective, you know, what I liked, what I didn't like, and I'm kind of excited about that. I'm gonna do a rewatch again. This movie actually made me do a rewatch, so it did its job. It got people like me back on board and back in the fandom. And so, if for no other reason than that, JJ, you succeeded. All right. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope you look forward to the next one.